All right, well, welcome back, everybody. We are going to talk about getting value from cyber exercises. Simran and Nadine are going to talk with us around that. I think this is a critical piece of what we do in cybersecurity. In my world, when we're doing tabletop exercises, those things extend out into the business leadership. It helps get people organized, understand where we're going. It's not just a cybersecurity thing. This is actually a business thing usually for us. And it's about how do we mitigate risks? How do we make sure we know what the next step is? It shouldn't be a mystery. And what should the CFO do? What should PR be doing? And so I'm excited to hear what you guys had to say and learn some more from us. So thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Simran Sakraney. I'm a cybersecurity consultant advisor at Mandiant, now Google Cloud, and I work within the strategic services practice. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about getting value from cyber exercises and really cyber gamification and the value you can get out of doing exercises beforehand to make sure that your teams are prepared, they're going more off of muscle memory, and if there is an incident, God forbid, that they know what to do, they're familiar with their incident response processes, the tools, the techniques that they need, and also the collaboration between different parts of the company, different parts of the teams. And we do a lot of tabletop exercises here at Mandiant. We do a lot of different simulations, and our clients have just gotten so much value from it. Recently, I was in Tennessee, and I was working with a medical organization, and it was a very different tabletop exercise where it was for clinical leadership. So usually we do them for technical incident response teams and executives, sometimes boards. But this one was a little different. We were really glad that we did because sometimes, with the industry getting more saturated within the medical field and the technology being more saturated, everything, being interconnected to IoT now. It was interesting, some of the questions that were brought up. The discussion was very valuable. So we're getting a little bit more into the niche sectors. It's been a lot of fun developing different scenarios and looking up TTPs and getting into more niche areas to develop scenarios that make sense for clients. So a little bit about Mandiant and incident response at a glance. So has anyone heard of Mandiant? Yes? Okay, that's good.
Well, ask them if they've heard of Google.
So we have 1,000 employees across the world. We specialize in incident response. We have lots of researchers and analysts. We are in 53 different countries. We have analysts and staff from all over that speak 30 plus different languages, 750 plus consultants. We have incident response, hours per year, 200K. Not every time, but most of the time you see a breach in the news, it gets to the news. A lot of them don't. Because, of course, bad for the reputation. Usually, Mandiant's the one handling that. So my colleagues and myself are, incident remediation advisors. We're the incident responders, 24/7-hour coverage. And it's been really fun. And we use a lot of those incidents to inform tabletops and different simulations. So a little bit about me. I'm from Miami, Florida. So not a big cyber space over there, but we're working on it. Do strategic cybersecurity advising. I lead projects that help clients to prepare for incident response activities and assess their current programs to help fill gaps. Really, I feel like I'm very lucky because out of everyone at Mandiant, my team gets the calmer, more zen version of clients where they're not going through the worst day of their entire career because we're trying to prevent that from happening. So my team is focused on being proactive and working on assessing gaps so there's less chance of an incident occurring. That's several years of experience in both the federal and commercial sectors. So I've been very, very blessed with my career trajectory so far. Before Mandiant, I was a SOC when I started doing threat intelligence. And then I became a lead cloud advisor for the DoD CISO and CIO in DC. Then after, I was building a cybersecurity practice at a smaller boutique consulting firm. And that was very interesting, but I decided that I wanted to be at least intelligent in a few areas. So when I walked into a room, I would have more to learn from. And Mandiant's the best place to do that for me. Go ahead, Nadine.
Oh, and so this is me. I cannot sit and talk. So stand up. So I've been around a while. I've been doing this for a while. My name is Nadean Tanner. I've been at Mandiant a little over 4 years, building the program for Mandiant Academy that does focus on cyber exercising. Been around the block a few times, written a couple of books. So I'm real excited when Simran's done with her presentation to tell you about my specific area of expertise when it comes to cyber exercise.
So Mandiant's mission, of course, is to make every organization secure from cyber threats and confident in their readiness. So tabletop exercises, that's exactly the intent there. And when I go in, I always make sure that they realize this is not an audit. This is a learning experience. We want it to be enjoyable. We want you to do exactly what you would do if this was a real incident. So there's not really any particular right or wrong answers. Just tell us what you would do, and we'll go from there. So we like for it to be interactive, lots of discussion, and lots of different collaboration. And sometimes they want to pull in third parties, external counsel or a PR firm or cyber insurance. And sometimes they don't even know who would we contact to do that, and you definitely want to make sure you have all your ducks in a row. So if there ever is an incident, you're not, running around the company looking for who's in charge of that and who does this and who owns that tool and who has access to the CMDB. Is everything in there? Has it been updated? So we definitely want to prevent the anxiety. So Mandiant Consulting, of course, the entire organization, we're here to mitigate the cyber threats. We're here to reduce risk. We're here to get you all back to business, back to normal business operations. And tabletops help you do that. We try to, imitate real life scenarios so that if there was an incident, we can try to fill the gaps and help everything go as smoothly as possible. So fun fact, when I'm scoping out tabletop exercises and trying to create a scenario that's very tailored to the customer, I always ask first thing, what keeps you up at night? Give me the laundry list. What does worst case scenario look like for you? Because of course, the engineers, the analysts, the executives, sometimes if they're plugged in, they know where the vulnerabilities are. They know what's going to worry about them. They know what they haven't done, what they have done. They know what their security controls look like. So I always try to have a very honest conversation about their organization. So gamification, the use of game mechanics and game thinking to engage users in solving problems. Because that's what we do as cyber practitioners. We solve problems. And gamification to me is definitely a tremendous opportunity to practice before you need to actually engage. And I think tabletops are fun because we try to make it so. The gamification aspect allows different teams to work with each other, get to know each other that maybe wouldn't be in the same room hardly ever before. So the gamification really allows for the different organizations to work together and the different organizations to have conversations that they probably wouldn't have had otherwise. And sometimes things get a little long-winded, so we've got to put a pin in it, and then they'll continue those outside. But it is kind of like playing an actual game, but at work. And Nadean will speak a lot more about that very soon. So value of gamification, really, the whole focus is to be proactive versus reactive. And of course, you want to cover the grounds, cover worst case scenarios so that you're more prepared for an incident if it were to happen. So you want to make sure that what's in the incident response playbooks, what's in the incident response plan is actually what you would want your team to do. Every time I go to an organization and they hand me their incident response plan and it's 60 pages, some of them look like Harry Potter novels. And I'm like, no one's going to read that, especially with all the cortisol running through your body and you're under so much stress. No one's going to read that. Those paragraphs of long-winded definitions of what ransomware is and what DDoS is and what this tool does, not very helpful. So a lot of the times they start to realize that maybe we need to have more actionable documentation. Maybe we just need a workflow. Maybe we just need to keep things updated, bulleted lists, who to contact. And maybe that's all we do. Maybe we have a playbook or a section with a few playbooks and standard operating procedures, because when you're going through an incident, you're not going to be able to remember every little thing. There's a lot of stress And it's probably best to just, have what you need, check the box and keep it going. So also increasing security awareness, right? Especially during big exercises, we'll have sometimes board members involved, we'll have public relations involved, we'll have legal counsel involved, maybe, physical security, different teams from all over the organization. And sometimes, since they're not security practitioners, there's things that maybe they don't realize that they're doing that can make the organization vulnerable. They're just going about their day. And different organizations have different perspectives on security. And something I've noticed is that a lot of leadership is getting to the point where they realize that security it's not really a bottleneck. Paying attention to it, investing in it is actually worthwhile at the end of the day, because you would rather get your team prepared and spend a little on a simulation instead of going through an incident and spending billions of dollars and trying to find decryptors and hiring external counsel and, going through ransomware negotiation, not having your backups set up and in place. So there's been a lot of value from the exercises around that as well.
All right, so if someone would please give me a heads up about 5 minutes before it's time to break for lunch. I hate when somebody gives me this time slot because I'm the only thing, between you and your sandwich. So if you would give me a heads up, that would be lovely. What I would absolutely love for you to do as you're sitting here listening to me talk is think about the journey that you took to get here. How did you learn what you learned? Are you a directive learner? Are you an auditory learner? Were you like me in high school? I had a 45-pound backpack and I had these huge books that I had to read and I had to write and flashcards. Do you read? Do you watch videos? My kids come home with an iPad. They love TikTok. They've got the attention span of a gnat. You can learn cybersecurity in many, many different ways. And what we do at Mandiant is give you the opportunity to learn cybersecurity in many, many different ways, whether it be on-demand training so that you take it when you have availability. We are busy. Our plates are full. And so you've got an hour that you can spend learning how to DDoS, reverse malware. You want to learn more about Intel? Absolutely, you do it when it's best for you. We can also put you through a static class where you have a lecture from a subject matter expert, and then here's the lab. Click here, point here, click here, point here. Did you get it? Okay, let me review. Let me show you how it's done. But what I think is a culmination of everything that I've done in my career, and as you saw from my slide, I've been around a while. Everything from a college professional to a PS engineer, professional services engineer, deploying the tool, hands-on, is that hands-on element. When you touch it, feel it, smell it. I've walked into a server room when servers have burned. You don't get away from that. Has anybody ever replaced a CPU? Ever gotten thermal paste on your fingers? You know what that feels like. You never forget. And so when you got that hands-on experience, it makes life different. And so what I want to do with Threat Space is actually put people through their paces. And so this specific Threat Space exercise, or what Mandiant's cyber range is taking a team. I want to take your SOC. I want to take your leadership. I want to take your analysts. I want to take your responders. I want to take the people who document. And in some situations, we have people from public relations. We have legal in the room to, again, not just talk about what goes into that document that you release to CNBC or to Bloomberg. Mm-hmm. I want you to actually write it and then evaluate what it was that you write. I don't want the first time for you to experience a breach to be real world, because that's awful. Think about your favorite sports team. I don't know if it's football or if it's rugby. In my case, it's tennis, so I got to watch Wimbledon. Ooh, okay, but my mic was going out. But think about your favorite sports players. How did they get so good? Well, if you're sitting in this room and you're a cybersecurity sports player, because in some ways it is, you need to be able to practice. And it doesn't need to be just plain old theoretical. I have taught A+, NAT+, Security+, CASP, CISSP. In which of those classes did you actually get to do something? I think exercising is one of the most important things that you can do. So within our cyber range, I have a live red teamer. You get to chase him. And he is doing things, Simran, that's my line. What keeps you up at night? Is it a specific APT? Is it China? Is it Russia? Is it North Korea? Is it a Fin group? Is it an UNC group? Is it Emotet? It's coming back. We've been seeing it. Mm-hmm. Is it poison ivy? Do you want to threat hunt against something that's old? Or do you want cutting edge, something new? You know the skill set of your team. You know what you need to practice. And if you don't, guess what? We can tell you what you need to practice. So what we want to do is we want to put you through your paces. We want you to feel the panic. I know you just said you want it to be fun. I want you to feel the panic. And on day one, typically of one of these engagements, and I watched some of the students in the room. I was watching the scoreboard. I know what that panic feels like. And probably if you've been through a CTF and you know the elevation and the, when you finally get one of those flags, yes, I did it. My favorite are the cryptos.
That's the fun
any
part,
cryptography? I love doing cryptography CTFs. Please let that not be my phone in my purse. So what we do is we present many different scenarios. Is it mine? I'm going to be so mortified if it is. So you choose your scenario, and then you chase my red teamer throughout the environment. And what we want to do is we want to punctuate that with education collateral. So if it is talking about ransomware, if we are talking about Active Directory attacks, if you want us to tell you what curb roasting should be. Now, I will tell you what makes this so organic and so fun is that I've done this, and on day one, somebody raises their hand and say, what's a forest? What's port 53? Ooh, okay, now we need to take a step back and we need to reevaluate what education we're delivering to you. But exercising, again, exposes those weaknesses. Mm-hmm. So this is just a sample range. These are some of the tools. And again, what I think is incredibly important is to make this as realistic as possible. What does your production environment look like? What does your production ecosystem have in it? I love Splunk, Security Onion, Velociraptor. If you've not played with Velociraptor yet, it is open source. It's Rapid 7. That's where I was before I actually came to FireEye, before FireEye became Mandiant, or Mandiant became Google. Metasploit. I swear, if you've never sat at the table with H.D. Moore, he looks like he is just a sweet guy. Velociraptor, extremely powerful tool. So go look at it if you want a free open source EDR. But it's in the range. And so one of the beautiful things at the very, very end of our engagement is my team, which is usually a team of 4, red teamer, Intel, IR, and then a facilitator, usually a facilitator, me, making sure the range is working as it's supposed to. We compile both a quantitative and a qualitative report. And what that report does is it tells you, again, where are your strengths? Where are your strengths? It's made up a word. Strengths and your weaknesses. And so communication-wise, I will tell you I did one not too terribly long ago in Israel. Had a different manager on day 1 than day 2. Day 1, that manager I would work for. He was artistic. Yeah. He was articulate. He was wonderful. Next day, that manager told people to sit down and shut up. And they did. Checked out. So it was a wonderful place for us to say, okay, this is not how you do it. Mm-hmm. And so in each element, what we can do is tell you where their strengths and weaknesses. And that's what we want to point out. So we give you something both quantitative and qualitative that we can build off of. I've had organizations use this as a capstone. I've had organizations use this as a baseline. So there are many, many different ways that we can use it.
I've had organizations even use it as a checklist. These are the initiatives we're going to be doing based on what we saw in the last few days. And they make a roadmap out of it and they begin working on it. Some of them, before we even get the report out, by the time I'm debriefing, they're like, we've already looked for a 24/7 hour SOC. We've already done this. We've already done that. We're scheduling an exercise to test further here. We've had discussions on, pen testing, and we're going to get that done. And they've already started getting through all the motions to make sure that we can fill some of the gaps that we found. But I really do think that the exercises are able to shine a light in places that maybe your organization didn't even realize that needed investment.
Any questions? I got the 5-minute.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Hi. Good brief, thanks. Can you tell us how Mandiant may be different from other products like this in this space, like maybe Red Seal or Cybersecurity, some of these other competitors? How do you differ from them?
I think a big differentiator between ThreatSpace and some of the other organizations is the white glove organic treatment. Our scenarios are very customizable. You tell me the APT you want to threat hunt against, we create the scenario. The range is very organic. You tell me what tools you want to bring in, ArcSight, Proofpoint, Sentinel-1, Defender. I customize the range for you. And then you're being taught by 4 subject matter experts from Mandiant with different levels of expertise in their field. Typically what I try to do, for example, I'm doing one next week in pharmaceuticals. I've got the guy that worked the thing last week who knows that. So what I try to do is I bring the subject matter experts to the table who have experience in that field. And so when we have the debriefs at the end of the day where the red teamer says, this is what I did, where I did it, how I did it, this is what you found with this is what you missed, it almost turns into a TTX. And since it's done for a single organization, that's where we can have the conversation about asset management, the CIS top 3. We can have those really strong conversations about, and then the report at the very end. So I think, again, it's a very white glove service. It's not one size fits all.
Anyone else have any questions?
All right, so I think it's lunch.
Yes. I think everyone's hungry.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is Nadean.